It's The Weekly Show with David J. Maloney. This week, David talks to Kansas lead singer Ronnie Platt. And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome to everyone at home, and I would normally say our studio audience, to The Weekly Show. I am your host, David J. Maloney. I say normally because we usually shoot the show before a small studio audience at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, but we are still shooting from home due to coronavirus concerns. We hope to gain clearance to get back to our live-to-tape shows in the next few weeks. So, a 35-year-old Long Island man who joined Al-Qaeda said it was the worst decision he ever made, with the possible exception of buying a timeshare. And in Pennsylvania, a man stole 28 cases of Red Bull from a local grocery store. I just don't know how that man can sleep at night. And Somalia was just ranked as the world's most corrupt nation. Yeah, after they bribed all the judges. Japan now has 86,000 people over 100 years old. Experts say that number would be even higher if not for, well, you know, Godzilla. Oh, and did you hear about this? A middle school teacher in Florida has been charged with trafficking drugs. Parents became suspicious when the only places their kids could point to on a map were Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru. Bad boys, bad boys. Lastly, this past week, I finally finished reading the iTunes licensing agreement. Turns out there's an incredible recipe for eggplant Florentine with fire-roasted tomato sauce and toasted ciabatta on page 6350. On tonight's show, we've got the lead singer for one of the most popular progressive rock bands in history. His band has produced 3 multi-platinum albums and several hit singles, including Dust in the Wind and Carry On Wayward Son. If you haven't guessed it by now, that band is Kansas, and their lead singer, Ronnie Platt, is here to chat about their new tour, their brand new live album, and all things Kansas. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Our featured guest tonight is the lead singer of one of America's most quintessential rock bands, with 3 multi-platinum records and 1 sextuple platinum single that will likely outlast us all. The one and only Kansas. Here to chat about the band, their current tour, their brand new live album, their upcoming show coming in Pensacola, and his own incredible journey through the music industry is none other than Kansas lead singer Ronnie Platt. Ronnie, welcome to the show, and good to see you again.
Oh, nice to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you've had such an incredible journey to get to this moment, finally on the cusp of finishing out a globetrotting tour with Kansas. How does it feel, first of all, to kind of finally be back out on the road?
Absolutely fantastic. You know, it was very strange to not even see each other for 14 months. And in this band, the music demands that you rehearse. So it was tough not to see each other and to go that long, but now to be back on the road and you know, just in front of people, there's the energy when you're playing a live show, and really miss that. So it's great to be back.
So has the break kind of rejuvenated you and the band in any way? I mean, you know, people say the absence makes the heart grow fonder, you know?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's funny to be off that long. You miss it. You know, it's something that I've done my entire life, probably since the age of 13, 14. I've always been in a band, always playing every weekend or just about every weekend. And, you know, during the week in the summertime, from bars and festivals to casinos, everything on up, just be totally disengaged from that for the first time in my life. It was very strange. And probably the toughest thing about it was not knowing when we were going to go back and if we were going to be back. You know, when they first shut everything down, it's like, you know, well, it'll be 2 months, you know, and we'll be back to normal. Then it was 3 months, then 4 months, then 6 months. And it really started to play with your mind. Are we going to be back? And, but that's all behind us now. And boy, looking at what's in front of us as far as our schedule, it's fantastic because we are hitting the road hard.
Well, it's interesting you'd say that because, there's actually a Supreme Court case that says that you cannot deny a prisoner calendar or clock because it denies them hope for when they will finally get out.
Yeah.
And not knowing when you'll be able to get back to your normal life is one of those things that is kind of a deprivation of hope. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. When they took away the live shows or say when the shows got canceled, I think it also kind of showed everyone just how much music and those communal experiences mean to people.
Yeah.
And how music and sharing it with others is really a big part of the human experience. Before I get too much further,
it really is.
Yeah. Before I start getting into the world of Kansas, I'd love to chat about your own, journey in the music, Ronnie. You said music was kind of a big part of your earlier years.
Yes.
What would you say was your first music memory, or maybe a moment where a song came over the radio and a light bulb just clicked and in some way and said, this is, I should be looking into this. I should be doing this.
Probably when my sister brought home her first acoustic guitar, which I probably stole from her within a day. And then just, my sister's 4 years older than me. And, I was always subjected to put on her stereo. And I just remember listening to bands like, Chicago, and my sister had a very limited album selection. And I just started listening to what she had. And I think I was 12, 13 when she got that guitar, and I quickly stole it. And that's when it all started. But I mean, my family alone, I've always been around music. All my grandparents played piano, sang. My godfather, my uncle, he sang. My sister played violin and piano growing up. My mother still plays piano, if not daily, pretty often. So it was always a normal thing for me to be around music. But when my sister got that guitar, and then I just, you come into your teenage years and you start discovering bands, of course, the early bands like Chicago. I became a big Rush fan, and I was always a prog rocker. I always loved Kansas. I loved Yes. All my cover bands. The entire time I played in cover bands. I pretty much insisted, we're going to be playing some Kansas. We're going to be playing Yes. We're going to be playing some Genesis. If you don't like that, well, I'll be moving along, So it's always been my influence, or my experience to be. It's hard to imagine my life without music. It's hard for me to think about what do people do with their time, that aren't involved with music. So it's just a normal environment for me.
And I know you've said before that you've paid your dues. Do you remember any moment at some point in your career where you thought, oh, well, maybe I should just be calling this off? Or was it always going to be essentially your life's devotion and you're going to stick to it, whether you made it to the moment that you're at now, or whether you stayed at whatever stage in your life you were then?
I think that's a mistake a lot of musicians make, is they put a goal in their mind of they want to achieve some kind of success. And well, what's the old line? Life is a journey, not a destination. And I really feel music is like that, or at least it has been for me. I never really had a mind thought of, wow, I'm going to be the lead singer of Kansas, or I'm going to be the lead singer of Yes. I never thought like that. I just no matter what band I was in, no matter what kind of material we were doing, I always wanted to get better. And when that is your motivation, I don't think you put some kind of self-imposed pressure on yourself if I don't make it by the time I'm age 30, I'm going to give it up. And I never thought like that, you know, and it worked out because I became lead singer of Kansas when I was 52, you know, so, it's just been my work ethic and the love of music, probably the love of music more than being in front of an audience or putting some kind of, destination in my mind that I had to achieve. I don't think I ever thought like that.
I think maybe a good antidote to illustrate your journey is your audition with Foreigner and how surreptitious it was. Can you walk us through? Can you walk us through that story? I understand it. It may be a little insane.
That is, it really is a great story because at the time, I was in a cover band that did a set of Journey, a set of Bon Jovi, and a set of Foreigner. We would do an hour of each band. That was how I sold the band. And my bass player, my bass player at the time, Jamie, was running the website, and he goes, "Hey, this guy contacted me a couple times. He's sitting doing some commercial work." And I'm like, $10 is $10, right? So I ended up contacting Jeff Jacobs, who was the keyboard player of Foreigner at the time. And he was pretty elusive about what he was doing. And, Lou was still singing with the band at the time and really struggling. He had that brain tumor and really, an unfortunate time in Foreigner's life. So, but I just remember Jeff finally, "Hey, I'm going to level with you. I'm the keyboard player of Foreigner, and we're looking for a new singer." And I'm like, "Wow, this is fantastic." So he had a studio in Chicago, right downtown Chicago, and I went there and I auditioned, and I actually did the song "Urgent," and my buddy Dan went with me, and Dan was in the control room.
Tough lyrics to remember.
Right. But I have to admit I had an unfair advantage because I've been singing Foreigner stuff, for such a long time to begin with. Ironically, Urgent wasn't one of them, but I was so familiar with the song. And I remember being in the recording room, and I'm looking through the window at Jeff, and I sang like the first verse of Urgent, and I could see Jeff just like perk up, like, holy shit. He turned to my buddy Dan. It's like, this guy's got some pipes. And I sang the song, and I came out into the control room, and he's like, "Do you know any other Foreigner songs?" I'm like, "Name them." And he played acoustic guitar, and I ended up doing like 4 or 5, like 15-second segments of other Foreigner songs. But he was very straight with me. He said, "Look, this is a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. I have no doubt that you could do the job, but Mick Jones, he's the boss. He calls the shots. I'm just gonna, submit you." So at the time, the only thing, at the time, being on my resume was cover band singer from Chicago. Where I was as far as the standing, or if Mick even ever listened to me, I don't know. But if I was sitting in the desk, I would make the same decision because Kelly's phenomenal. Kelly's a fantastic singer. Kelly Hansen, who's been with them now for since more than 15 years now. So at that time, I know Kelly, he was in a signed band. I'm sure he had a real nice portfolio. And that was really my introduction into trying to break into that level of band. So it was a learning experience for me, but Jeff was real honest. And I have to tell you, I never really did have any expectations because, heck, Foreigner, there's got to be a million guys auditioning. There's a million great singers out there. So I really didn't put high expectations on it, but it was a good experience.
Ronnie, we've got to go on a quick commercial break, pay the bills. Can you stick around to the other side?
Absolutely. I'm here. Let's come back.
How did the Kansas gig come about?
I really think that a big part of it was when I was in the band Shooting Star. I was the lead singer of Shooting Star from 2007 to 2011 in there. And a show that we did up in Walker, Minnesota called the Moon Dance Festival. And this was Thursday's lineup. It was Shooting Star, Foghat, Kansas, Sheryl Crow, and then the band that ended the night was Journey. That was just Thursday's lineup. So, and it's a huge festival. I remember pulling into this festival and there are just cars and campers as far as the eye can see. Just a zillion people come to this thing. So, but yeah, Shooting Star, we're up there, doing our set, and I look over and I see Rich Williams at our monitor board. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Rich Williams from Kansas was watching our set. So, at that time, did I think they knew Steve was hinting about retirement back then? That I don't know. But I really think Rich kind of put me in his back pocket at that time. And I've had other connections to the band also. A cover band that I was in back in the 80s called Drama. My drummer, Neil, his son became Phil Ehart's drum tech. So a lot of things fell into play. I knew the band, I met the band before. And so, but it was really strange to get a message from a friend of mine one day who happens to be Dennis DeYoung's niece, Dina, longtime friend of mine, longtime fan, came to all my shows, no matter what band I was playing in. And she messaged me one day, did you see this? And it was the press release announcing Steve's retirement. So, and knowing how things work in the music industry, when something's released like that, I automatically think, oh, that they're in the middle of a tour. They've had to have been working with someone who's gonna, fill in for Steve, so their touring is seamless. And on a whim, I messaged Rich Williams on Facebook, and we were friends on Facebook and Rich, it's Ronnie Platt from Shooting Star. Give me some consideration. That's all I wrote to Rich. Very next day, I'm about to leave the house and I'm like, I'm going to check my messages. Here I get a message from Rich. If you get this, we're about to go on stage in Houston. If you get this within the next 90 minutes, give me a buzz. So I called Rich. I talked to Rich on Thursday. He said, Phil will give you a call. I talked to Phil on Friday. They flew to Atlanta on Monday. I live in Chicago. So Monday, I met with Phil and Rich in Atlanta, flew right back home. I'm back driving my 18-wheeler on Tuesday morning and check my email, and there's an email from Phil saying, congrats, you got the job. The band is pumped. So things radically went into gear there.
Was there any hazing ritual when you joined?
Do I really have to divulge that? No. No, but it does involve a 55-gallon drum of no, I'm kidding. But when you sing Wayward and you're the lead singer of Kansas, you're going to raise your game some, so the hazing, I think, was self-imposed because, of course I'm nervous. I want to do the best job I can. So just get in there and sell it and hope they don't throw anything at me, you know? So,
Well, I know in some ways a band can get tired of playing their hits, especially because you got to play the same thing over and over again. But you've come in sometime after the song was initially released. Do you still kind of look at it like a fan does when you play it or hear it played, or have you gotten to a point where now you've played it a lot where it's kind of ingrained band wise?
yeah, no, that's probably a unique perspective that I have, because, you know, I haven't been a rock star my entire life, you know, so I still have that fan perspective. And to me, if I've sung Wayward Son 10,000 times, it's always in my mind that it's a new audience. There's someone in that audience. Sure, you've got oh my God, it's amazing. People come up to me and go, this is my 75th Kansas show, you know, but in my mind, there's always someone in the audience that has seen us for the first time. So that's always in the back of my mind. And again, it's my work ethic of just wanting to get better. And every time I sing Wayward Son, I want to sing it better than the last time, you know? So there's always that new energy with me. I hope that comes across. I think the audience sees that in me and appreciates it.
What was it like stepping in the studio for the first time with the band on the Prelude Implicit?
It came time to do my first vocal track. And Phil comes into the room and, you know, he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, look, have fun with this, relax, have a good time, do the best you can. Just totally put it out of your mind that there's 2.4 million Kansas fans waiting for this right now. Gee, thanks, Phil. No pressure, you know? So, but it's recording that album was intense. We just totally took over the entire studio in the separate rooms, and Rags would be in his room working on violin parts, and David Mannion at the time, he was in Studio B, doing programming and stuff. And it's such everything else is out of your mind because it's so intense. And it's just music is the only thing you're thinking about. It's really, then it's one thing that it's Kansas music, you're creating music with that Kansas label. It's intense. It was really intense, really high pressure, very educational, but pretty intense, pretty wild. And it just continued with the absence of presence too. I mean, recording the last studio album, that intensity was even more so.
That's our show for tonight. A special thanks to Ronnie Platt of the band Kansas for joining us. And thank you so much for watching. Next week, we have the second part of my interview with Ronnie, so be sure to tune back in. Stay safe, everyone.